Wrestling with wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
See, JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Definitely not his, the barn burner that Leif Cassidy and Ty Riley Singh was, but, we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Hager kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Zelina Vega on a pole match for that to be.
It is in the mail, my good sir. Oh, it wasn't. Paul.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely.
And then you can listen to us too. We're off to a rough start.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Pulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And today we are talking about WCW Uncensored 1999.
This show was definitely the very beginning of what was going to become WCW. It was trending downward. Still was a pretty good show. They hadn't quite got to that low point, but they were on their way.
Yeah, it definitely was the downswing for sure. I know when Tim and I had covered Starrcade 99, we both kind of felt the same way. So I think we're all in agreement. This was definitely their skid into the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric Bischoff was still there at this point, but he's not going to be there for very much longer. He's going to be dismissed in a couple more months, and that's when WCW really started to downfall. You had Vince Russo in there with everything on a pole matches and stuff like that. And you'll notice that throughout this show, every match, with the exception of maybe one or two, had some sort of weird stipulation to it.
Yeah, they kept wanting to remind us I feel like every 5 minutes. Remember, this is a non-sanctioned pay-per-view brought to you every year, but it's not sanctioned.
So we'll get right into it. There's 9 total matches to discuss. We opened the show with the singles match for the Cruiserweight Championship between Billy Kidman and Mikey Whipwreck. Mikey Whipwreck making his WCW debut. Obviously, he's well known in his ECW days. I actually really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a great match to start off the pay-per-view. To me, it was one of the better matches on the card. Went 15 minutes. Billy Kidman, and Mikey Whipwreck, I thought put on a solid performance here.
I agree. It was fun to listen to Bobby Heenan come up with different names for Mikey Shipwreck as he went through. But yeah, no, it was a solid match and good way to start the pay-per-view.
It definitely was a good match, and I feel bad because Mikey Whipwreck, this was foreshadowing for his whole career in WCW. I think it lasted like 4 or 5 more pay-per-views. He was supposed to be a surprise entrant into this match and get the crowd hyped up, and then he just disappears after this. And he does commentary later tonight that it's about as boring as his character was, but thankfully Kidman could help kind of make this match salvageable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his WCW career, Mikey's didn't really live up to much, but I mean, at least he had a decent performance here on this pay-per-view. Next up is a Harlem street fight for leadership of the NWO Black and White between Stevie Ray and Vincent or Virgil. In this match with 6 minutes and 30 seconds. I don't know. This street fight did absolutely nothing for me.
The best part of the street fight is trying to figure out who Horace Hogan was trying to slide the object to. He just came down, slid it into the middle of the ring, and walked away. This match went probably 6 minutes too long.
Yep.
Virgil, no offense to him, never really does anything for anybody except for have his nuts out on cameos. So, Stevie Ray wasn't a bad entertainer or performer, but Virgil was just, whatever. Vincent, Virgil, Vince, whatever you want to call him. This didn't need to be on pay-per-view. This could have been on a pre-show or on a Nitro. He's muted, so he ain't coming back right yet. So
okay. Well, we'll move on. We're having some technical issues with Mongo there. We'll move on to our next match, which was Kevin Nash with Lex Luger and Miss Elizabeth getting a win over Rey Mysterio Jr. in just over 6 minutes. Their storyline here is Rey Mysterio actually got a couple of wins over Kevin Nash on a couple previous shows. But Kevin Nash basically destroys Rey Mysterio here with the help of Lex Luger. Again, nothing to write home about here on this match. Didn't really do anything for me.
No, it just continued the storyline of the unfortunate unmasking, and this is, goes back to Bischoff not realizing what the mask meant to Rey Mysterio. I mean, his culture and the lucha style, the mask is everything, and it was either take the mask off or be fired, and Rey decided to keep his job, provide for his family, and it's really all it was a storyline to continue, that storyline is all this match was. And the Luger didn't need to be down there because, I mean, Nash doesn't need anybody to beat Rey Mysterio at this point. Rey Mysterio still isn't the giant killer that he'd become in WWE. Hey, there he is.
There's Mongo.
Anything you want to add to the Rey Mysterio Kevin Nash match? That's where we're gonna. I just said my piece. So if you want to throw anything in there, that's where we can pick back up.
Okay. So we already missed. Okay.
You didn't miss anything. Trust me. The Virgil.
Right. So I guess I'll just start with. I definitely didn't really want to see this match. It was. I mean, Rey Mysterio's character at this point being on that mask, I feel like kind of lost his luster. And I was sick of Rey Mysterio just overcoming every giant because I think that was the whole shtick of this run was, he's just going to beat everyone regardless of how big they are. He's the small wonder. And I like Rey Mysterio, but I just feel like this gimmick didn't really fit him. Kind of reminds me when he won the 2008 Rumble. I wasn't too thrilled that he was going for the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't mind him going for the WWE Championship, but not the heavyweight. And this was the whole David Goliath angle. And I feel like it had been done to death, but it was a halfway decent match, but I think the novelty wore off at this point.
Next up is a handicap match between Jerry Flynn, not Jerry Lynn.
I wish it was Jerry Lynn
on this one for a second. It's Jerry Flynn, whoever that is, gonna get a win over Ernest the Cat Miller and Sonny Ono in about 7 minutes. Again, I don't know. Just really didn't do anything for me. I like the character of Ernest the Cat. I thought he was pretty entertaining. But as far as the match goes, didn't do much.
2 words: dumpster fire. It didn't need to. Same thing as the Virgil and Stevie Ray match. It did not need to be on pay-per-view. It could have been a Nitro or a Thunder match. It didn't need to be there.
I know, I agree with you. I know I had technical issues earlier, so I couldn't tell you my thoughts, but that's the perfect way to describe both the Virgil match, Vincent, whatever the heck you want to call him, and this match. Honestly, during this match, if you need to use the restroom, if you need to get a snack, this is probably the match, because I had to literally look up who Jerry Flynn and Sonny Ono were, because I had no idea who they were.
I did cover Mongo while you had your issues. I did cover the only thing Virgil's known for is letting his nutsack hang on a cameo. So I just want to let you know I hit that for everybody twice. That's 2 references to Virgil now.
That's great.
What he's most known for.
Now we probably owe him $40, but don't worry, he'll help out the flea market.
Yeah. But anyway.
Fun fact, when I was at a flea market in Florida, I saw his table sitting out there, and he was hitting people up as you're walking to the flea market. It's like, why? It was the random, I can't talk today, parking lot in Florida, and you're just going to set up a table. So go to lonelyvirgil.net if anyone's curious. There's a bunch of pictures up there, and it's absolutely hilarious.
And then, that cameo we're talking about, it was literally one of his promo cameos. He had it looked like his ball bag was hanging out of his pants doing his cameo.
Yeah, I'd say go watch it, but please don't. Just like this match, please don't. It was balls.
Yeah. That's going to be our keyword now for a bad match. Virgil's balls. Hashtag Virgil's balls.
Well, I think we can apply that hashtag to this next match. It's a Falls Count Anywhere match between Hack, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Raven with Chastity. Hack's going to get the win after Chastity double crosses Raven. This match went 14 and a half minutes. This went about 14 minutes too long, I think.
The ending was creative. That was the ending. Raven's sister turns on Raven and ends up getting hacked to win. The ending was the most creative part of this match. The rest of it was just typical hardcore trash can. And the WCW didn't really know what to do with this style of wrestling, so it was just kind of there.
It was, you should know, when the Sandman was referring to himself as hardcore hack or whatever the heck he was at this point, you should have known that it was bad. You should have known that this match wasn't going to be anything special. And it really wasn't. I mean, Raven comes to the ring, can't even throw the trash can in the ring. He misses the first time. His girlfriend, sister, whatever Chastity was, she also misses. So that you're like, oh, it's going to be one of those matches. And then first thing Sandman does is just starts beating everyone down with weapons. So it made no sense. It was a cluster. It was balls, as we said earlier.
Yeah. Hashtag Virgil's balls.
Virgil's balls. Next up is a Lumberjack tag team match for the World Tag Team Championship. You have Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko going to get a win over Kurt Hennig and Barry Windham. Stipulation here was the Lumberjacks all had leather straps, so they just beat the crap out of anybody that was thrown out the ring. Arn Anderson comes in, takes the place, I believe it was Chris Adams, if I remember correctly, takes the place of him as a Lumberjack. I kind of wish this was a straight-up tag team match. I thought they could have put on a much better performance. I think you have 4 decent workers in the ring here, but I think they were hindered by the stipulation here.
Yeah, and then the only part that really got me was whatever Hennig hit Malenko with, floored Malenko. But then when Arn gets wiped out on the apron, he gets hit, rolls off the apron, comes right back in with the tire iron.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, wait, you just loaded your hand up, hit Kurt Hennig with it. He drops like he got, or hit Malenko with it rather, and he drops like he got shot. But then he hits Arn. Arn just rolls off, gets back up, and uses the tire iron. So the timing was a little bit off. I mean, that's kind of nitpicking, but yeah, I agree. It could have been a much better match. And Benoit goes 5/8 the way across the ring and misses the headbutt by about 3 feet. But I mean, it is what it is. He was way too far across. As soon as I saw him go for like climb up on that post, I'm like, he ain't gonna make that. There's no way, and he didn't.
I mean, we knew the match was another one match you knew was gonna be good too. Why were the Lumberjacks all shirtless? Can we talk about that? They're all like wearing jeans,
except for Arm in his Canadian tuxedo.
And it was like, is this like supposed to be a uniform? Is it supposed to be intimidating? Because I'm not intimidated. I'm just more scared that they're going to start dancing to Macho Man in a few minutes and start taking clothes off. It's WCW. Who knows what they were going to book at this point in time?
And not even, ooh, yeah, Macho, but like, yeah.
It's just, oh my goodness. It was just, I was not a fan at all. And there were so many good workers in this match. And this is what we got, and I don't understand why.
Next up, the stipulations just keep on continuing. We have a dog collar match here between a very gothic Perry Saturn and Chris Jericho with Ralph is. Perry Saturn going to get the win here in just under 12 minutes, actually. I really like Chris Jericho's character here, but I did not get the whole Perry Saturn thing. Like, the gothic Perry Saturn just did nothing for me.
This is the same guy that we get a mop over later.
Yeah.
The best part of this match, again, I'm going to give it to Bobby Heenan when he said that he looks like he shopped for his outfit at Ace Hardware.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
So, but yeah,
love your Weasel.
Yeah, the match itself was not. I mean, I guess it is what it is for a dog collar match. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't what it could have been if it had been a regular match.
I think it's the product of chemistry. Like you said, it's Perry Saturn. He was always so over pushed and overrated. I mean, he was talented. The Rings of Saturn is probably, one of the most devastating looking submissions that he used to put on, but he had a problem with gimmicks. He couldn't get whatever gimmick he had. He tried, give him credit, but he just couldn't get him over. And this was the result of the earlier feud where I think it was Starcade, the one you and I covered, Tim, or didn't he lose the match, had to wear a dress?
Yep.
So I think this is the whole start of that gimmick. And this was also like the Y2J gimmick that, would debut in WWE 5 months later. So that's kind of what sold the match, was Jericho's, as we use all the time on the show, chicken shit heel tactics in this match was great. And if you want to see a good dog collar match, we talked about the Cody one on our Brody podcast. Check that one out. This one was okay, but it was just more of a gimmick that these two had died down a while ago. This feud was just over at this point.
Next up, we do have a normal singles match here. This time it's for the television championship. Booker T is going to get a win over Scott Steiner, who's coming in as a champion. Buff Bagwell is going to cost Scott Steiner the win here. It was just weird to me to see Scott Steiner as the TV champ. I didn't remember him as the TV champ, and it just kind of felt like it was kind of a weird title for him to have.
Yeah, this match, again, could have been on Nitro or been on Thunder. It could have main evented one of those shows because it was for the title, but it left a lot to be desired. Buff Bagwell involved. Hopefully Steiner's okay from that vicious chair shot that Bagwell hit him with. Looked like he swatted a fly with it, but it definitely seems like every other match on this card didn't need to be there.
It definitely was. You said 50-50 booking a lot. This was like 50-50 booking, just in terms of putting the match card together. It was just good match. Good match. It was the most roller coaster thing, and this was so filler. This should have been the pre-show if they had a pre-show. This was like a pre-show caliber match. And what was Scott Steiner's gimmick at this point? It's just a roid rage freak, because like he was like screaming and yelling, and it was so bad. Go back to doing your terrible math, Steiner.
Next up is our main event, and listen to this stipulation of this one. It is a barbed wire steel cage first blood match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Ric Flair is going to get a win over Hollywood Hogan via pinfall. I don't know if I missed something, because I'll admit this match really didn't hold my attention really well. But Ric Flair was bleeding, and it's the first blood match, so shouldn't he have lost? Or did I miss?
Flair came out at the beginning and said to Charles Robinson that he didn't want him to stop the match for like a paper cut, essentially. But yeah, Flair gets cut open like 5 minutes into the match, and not like a little bit, but he was bleeding. I mean, it wasn't a full blown gusher like Flair does, but it was close. And for some reason the match went on to the point, and then it ended in a figure four with a fast count.
Yep.
I don't, other than the fact that Flair was the president and the Little Nate Charles Robinson was the referee in the match. This match was fucking weird. The best way to describe it was weird.
It was weird.
Like Hogan hit a big boot and a leg drop, tried to pin him at one point, and it still ended in a pinfall. He had him in a submission move and ended in pinfall with a fast count. They both were bleeding, but it was a first blood match.
Thank you for saying you were confused, because I just thought I just didn't remember the storyline enough, because I had no idea what the hell was going on in this match. You know, if you ever seen the movie Donnie Darko, I felt like I was watching a Donnie Darko wrestling match. It was so confusing and all over the place. And I was like, wait, why is he trying to pin him? And then like Tim said, Flair got bust open like super early in the match. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I'm like, okay, we get it. You want Flair to have the title, but you could have just done a regular steel cage match and still have this many scripts. We probably would have forgiven you a little bit more, but you emphasized the barbed wire, the blood. You emphasized him telling him, "Don't count me out for a paper cut." Excuse me, don't make sure you're using your discretion. Well, what kind of discretion was it? Stevie Wonder discretion? Because Flair was beating like a sieve.
And even at the end, when the fast count happened, Flair still had more blood on him than Hogan did.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was weird.
But you're 14-time champion, I guess.
So that's our rundown of Uncensored 99. Overall, for me, it's a pretty underwhelming show. I'll probably give it a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. I wasn't crazy about this one. If I had to recommend a match, it would be the first one between Kidman and Whipwreck. Yeah,
I think that's probably, you could watch that match and then shut it off after if you really wanted to and not miss anything. Storylines weren't too bad in some of this, but 4 might be generous.
It's WCW 99. I don't know. It's hard to watch because this was sad. It's another example. They just wasted all their talent in these crappy gimmicks. You had some workers, but that's why Jericho would leave in a few months. That's why the Radicals, Malenko and Saturn and Guerrero and Benoit, that's why they're going to leave, because they see the sinking ship and they don't want to be a part of it. And 4 is super generous. I'd give it a 1, and that's just because of that one match, like you guys just said, Billy Kidman match. Watch that match, and there you go. You watch the whole pay-per-view that should have been.
Watch it in reverse order.
Yeah.
You'll be less confused.
So we still have a few minutes here, so we're going to kind of run down AEW Revolution. We all got a chance to watch that pay-per-view. So we'll run down the card real quick and give you our thoughts on AEW Revolution. The match on the buy-in was Britt Baker, DMD, and Maki Ito, with Rebel getting a win over Rio and Thunder Rosa in about 15 minutes here. A decent match, but I just didn't get the whole Maki Ito thing. She came across as a face, but she's being paired with the heel. So kind of confusing.
That's what I said. Tim and I watched it together, and that's what I said. I'm like, she came out singing and getting the crowd going, and then she's on Britt Baker's team. So weird.
I did a deep dive because I was curious because I like to see where characters came from. And according to Squared Circle, she's supposed to be a failed Korean pop star, and she's bitter about it. So she's a heel using that because she's like a bitter that I never made it. And that's why on Dynamite she was doing that weird like head bonk thing with the microphone. I think she's supposed to be a heel because she's a failed K-pop star is her gimmick.
Yeah, it was, and that stuff on Dynamite was even worse than this match was. So
yeah. Unfortunately, it's supposed to get you to buy the show, but it just wasn't that solid. And I think the wrong people went over.
Right, and like I said to Tim, if you're gonna, and then later on in the night, not to spoil it, but Nyla Rose aligns herself with them. Why wouldn't you have had Nyla Rose be her partner? Like if Britt Baker wasn't gonna have Rebel, who Rebel is a wrestler, but then you bring out someone who weighs 50 pounds less than Rebel and just isn't. Nobody really knows who it is, to be honest with you. I mean, some do, but the majority don't. So like, why wouldn't you? The point there would have been, okay, we're gonna have her team with Nyla and then get heat that way. Because like, why would you pick someone smaller than your partner would have been? I know it doesn't make sense.
I think it's just because she was a standout in the tournament, so I think they were just trying to do a fan service. But yeah, I agree. It didn't really make sense. There was a lot of rumors swirling who it was going to be, and I think this was just more of a preview of some of the letdown things. But it was an okay match. But like you said, it didn't really make sense. So it's on the buy-in anyway. So if you get to rewatch it, I would skip it.
And at this point, who picked that match correctly? At this point. I didn't. I know I didn't. So
no.
So we're all 0 for 1 at this point.
Yeah, we didn't do so hot.
Speak for yourself, buddy. After the tag team battle royal, I got every match right. Speak for yourself.
That's true.
I had a good night for once.
So we opened up the show with the tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team titles. The Young Bucks are going to get a win over the Inner Circle, Chris Jericho and MJF. I think this was the best match of the night. It was really a solid match. Great way to open the show. I did kind of predict on the previous podcast the Sammy Guevara swerve. I sort of got that right. It was just a little bit late. It happened on Dynamite, the couple days after the pay-per-view. So I guess I'll give myself a partial correct on that. But overall, I thought this was a solid match.
You nailed it with the Guevara thing. It just, like you said, it happened on AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. And for the people that didn't see it or haven't seen it, the swerve that happened there is what makes wrestling great. Because I don't think everybody predicted that something was going to happen between Jericho and MJF, but I don't think anybody predicted that MJF was going to have his own team, which actually might be better than the Inner Circle.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it's a 4 horsemen type of gimmick, and that's what they've been teasing for months. And this is why I love what AEW is. They're long-term story building. And like you both just said, you didn't see the swerve coming. Tim nailed 50% of that swerve, which is to say something. They still shocked us with the other 50%, not to go off this pay-per-view, but this match was great because it led into that storyline. It fed into it. It led into MJF and Jericho failing to get the titles from the Young Bucks, and had a great spot in this match where the Young Bucks go for the Meltzer driver and Jericho hits him with a code breaker right as he jumps. That was a solid spot. I like that Jericho is starting to use his limitations a little more and still pull off these great spots, but not have to show that he's the Jericho from, what we talked about earlier tonight from 1999, that this is 2021, you're in your 50s, go the way you can go. And he did a great job. And this was probably my match of the night.
Yep.
Absolutely. Next up is the Casino Tag Team Royale for a future shot at the tag team titles. Ray Phoenix, representing the Death Triangle with Pac, is going to win a last eliminating Jungle Boy here. And this match was 27 minutes long. I actually really liked it. I liked how they had an actual clock. Roland and I were discussing how they had a clock that you could tell exactly when the next entrant was going to come in. It had a little bit of a Royal Rumble feel to it, but it was a tag team match. You had the swerve with QT Marshall getting eliminated himself, causing a little issue with, Dustin Rhodes. So I thought it was pretty solid, for a battle royal is concerned.
And I think that swerve goes all the way back to when Lee Johnson won that first match and he didn't mention QT Marshall. He mentioned, I couldn't have done this without Cody. I couldn't have done this without Dustin. And QT Marshall was standing behind him, staring at him the whole time. So I think this swerve goes all the way back to that. Mongo was close. He was a runner-up in this match. He was the bridesmaid, picking Jungle Boy and Lucha, the Jurassic Express, sorry, Luchasaurus, as the winner. He was a runner up. We had our teams. Tim's team wasn't even in the damn thing.
No, my not even in the match.
my team made it somewhat towards the end, but not as long as Mongo's did. So, and I had 3 teams in the thing, so I went smart and picked the numbers, and still wasn't right.
Yeah, no, you agreed with my 7-year-old. He picked the Dark Order too. He goes, I'm picking them because there's a lot of them. I was like, all right. So rolling your strategy was smart though. I have the odds in your favor. Yeah, it was a good match. I loved it. I also like the clock too, because you're watching it, who's going to come out. And they actually, unlike WWE, hey WWE, here's me, focus on the ring and the entrance. So when there's a surprise entrance, you see the reaction, not just Roman Reigns' face for 25 minutes while AJ Styles makes his debut. I thought the surprise was kind of let down because they announced him the night before. So Tim, you didn't know your card wasn't in there, to be fair, because they didn't really announce all the participants. So I'm going to cut you some slack there.
All right, thank you.
Well, we already had the cover story is that he meant to say Private Party.
Yes.
So if Private Party had won, then Tim would have got it right. We would have pivoted that way. Been like, I meant Private Party, not Top Flight. Picked the wrong young up and coming team.
It was still a great match, and Top Flight I think should have been in there. It was a solid card overall, and it was definitely the way they should do battle royals more often. It was very fluid, didn't feel clunky.
Next up is the AEW Women's title match between Shida and Ryo Mizunami. This match really didn't hold my attention. I mean, I just wasn't really invested in this one. Went 15 minutes. I mean, there were some decent spots in it, but overall, it wasn't one of my favorites.
Well, I like that they tied it back to the first Double or Nothing when Ryo Mizunami was on the same team as Shida. Like, that was pretty cool. But there was a lot of cool spots in the match. The match was relatively fast paced, so it wasn't bad. But like Tim said, there were points where there were breaks where I just wasn't as interested as I should have been, partially because I'm not that invested in who Shida's facing, because we don't know her like that, and that's no fault of us or them. It's she's clearly a star, but we just don't know her. If it had been somebody like a Chris Statlander or something like that, we would have been like, oh, this is, you would have been going back and forth and pulling which way. But I just think that's why it was a little bit harder to hold the attention of some of the fans. I can speak for Tim and myself. It was one of those matches that I didn't mind watching, but I didn't really care who won either. But I kind of figured that Shida would retain anyways.
No, you hit the nail on the head. It's like the pre-show where there wasn't really story behind it, and the pre-show had a little bit, not a lot. This same kind of thing. There wasn't really a story to get you invested in why they were fighting, just because this was another match to feature the winner of the tournament. So unfortunately, there should have been some drama in the tournament. There should have been something to help build the story, but that's what it was. It was just lack of storytelling. So wrestling standpoint, it was solid. Both workers did great. Storyline standpoint, it wasn't there, so it was hard to be invested. So I think the three of us are in agreement that it's a good match, but it's just that lack of storytelling just pulls your attention away.
Next up is a tag team match. You have Miro and Kip Sabian getting a win over Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor by submission with game over. Match just under 8 minutes. Again, this one was just kind of filler for me. To me, they're not really using Miro to his full potential yet. They just haven't done much with him. So I kind of feel bad for Miro because he's getting the wrong end from both companies now. This match was just kind of there for me. Yeah,
and it was somewhat predictable that you had to have Miro win eventually.
Yeah,
you couldn't keep having Orange Cassidy didn't take the pin, and I predicted that in the thing that Orange Cassidy wouldn't take the pin, and it would further the storyline. Again, it wasn't a bad match. It was like Tim said, it was kind of just there. It was more filler, but it did further a little bit of a storyline. But that's about it. I mean, Miro finally got a win per se. It's still not quite how they should be using him, I don't think, but we'll see what happens going forward.
No, I agree. I heard rumors that he was hurt and that he's been working through small injuries. So I think that's why they've been putting him with Sabian. But if you notice, it planted the seeds for his singles run as Beast. And another thing you give yourself credit for is that Miro was going to dominate this match and basically be a beast and just destroy everyone. He essentially did, because he throws Orange Cassidy into Penelope, into Kip, and Kip got bad. And they had words after the match. So I think you hit the nail on the head. The storyline that's planting that seeds to get him his well-deserved run, because there's no way they're not going to use him as a monster heel because he's got so much potential. But yeah, this match was kind of filler because it just did what it needed to do, is fill the story and kind of give you a little cool down. Well, they thought cool down match, but they kind of had 2 cool down matches before it picked up steam again.
Next up is the big money match between Hangman Adam Page and Big Money Matt Hardy. The match went about 14 and a half minutes with Adam Page getting the win. I thought it was a solid match. It wasn't something, it wasn't one of my favorite matches I've ever seen, but I thought it was decent.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad match. That furthered the storyline between the Dark Order and Matt Hardy's now group of 5 with adding the Butcher and the Blade on Wednesday, it makes sense now that Eddie Kingston is kind of moving away from them, and we'll get to that too, but at least they're doing something with the Butcher and the Blade. They put them with Matt Hardy and Private Party, so it furthers the Dark Order storyline. It made Adam Hangman Page look like a legit top guy, which a lot of people feel like he's been kind of shuffled a little bit to the back, but very good match.
No, it was a good wrestling match. It told the story. It's furthering the storyline. I still think that this is a way to get Matt kind of going crazy again, because now that there's a crowd back, he can get that reaction for his broken character. So I think this is another way he can kind of transition, because this is mirroring his Impact run where he was Big Money Matt and then he became broken. So he's a good heel. It's good storytelling. I also like that Hangman Adam Page reshared his tweet from last year where he's like, one day I'll have enough money to buy a lawnmower. And then on Dynamite this week, he had a segment where he had his new riding lawnmower. So I thought it's absolutely funny that they kind of go back to these stories, because it makes you care more as a fan. Excuse me. It was a solid match, but I think they could have done a little bit better. And I think maybe they will with this new formation of the groups, like you said.
Next up is the Face of the Revolution ladder match for a shot at the TNT Championship. Scorpio Sky is going to get the win here over Cody Rhodes, Penta, Lance Archer, Max Caster, and the surprise entrant was Ethan Page, which was kind of really underwhelming for me. We were kind of expecting somebody a little bit more noteworthy. I thought it was a solid ladder match, though, and you guys nailed it right on the head with the Scorpio Sky pick.
I feel like if they were going to have Christian Cage debut, it would have made all the sense in the world to have him actually compete in this match.
Yeah.
Which is why I didn't think it was going to be Christian Cage when he didn't come out, when it was Ethan Page. Tim and I both were like, who's this guy? Like I've never really seen any of his stuff, because he's been on Impact, and Impact's not on TV really around here. So even the name didn't ring a bell. And no offense to him. I just, we're too closed off from the Impact genre because of the downhill slide that Impact had going from station to station and not having that national exposure. That being said, he had a good performance, and the match itself, I feel like they could have done a little bit better with it. It wasn't terrible. I feel like for whatever reason, Tim and I were talking about the brass ring being too low. It seemed like the ladders, you could stand the ladder up and hit it. Like it seemed like the ring was a little bit too low. Cody had that spot where he went out, came back. He was injured. So, it wasn't a terrible match, but it definitely could have been more.
From a wrestling standpoint, it was a great match, but like you said, it was kind of set up a little weird. I thought maybe once I saw the ring, it was going to be Sonic coming out to grab that thing, because that's what it reminded me of. Like you said, the big donut reminded me of one of Sonic's rings.
Yeah.
I get I get it. It's kind of like a little shot at everyone's cliche of, you got to grab the brass ring, and that's why they did it. Definitely the right person won. Scorpio Sky is getting red hot right now. He's just made his heel turn. And I think it was overall put together well. All ego Ethan Page. I only know a little bit, but he's supposed to be a really good heel. So I think it's good because they're going to kind of rebalance the heel and face dynamic. Because right now there's too many faces in AEW. They need more heels. But overall, it was good. It could have been a lot better. I agree with you both.
When Scorpio Sky, not to cut you off, when he completes the heel turn all the way, he would look so good in MJF's group.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there. I'm not saying they're going to add him to it, but he would look so good in that group.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about, Christian Cage would debut after this, and I teased on our Facebook page that I had some news. I can tell you with some pretty confident certainty from sources that the artist formerly known as Lena Vega, aka Thea Trinidad, has signed a contract with AEW, and they're just waiting for her to debut. So you heard it here first that we're going to get a new female wrestler, and the rumors are she's going to be either joining the former group LAX, who's in the Inner Circle, or she's going to be with Pentagon and Rey Fenix at some point because they want to do something with Pac. So let's hope it's true, and let's hope these sources don't let us down, but you heard it here first.
Yep.
Mongo with the scoop.
That's why you got to listen to us on Spotify, folks.
That's right. Or
you can watch us on Spotify.
Hey, you know what? I finally got it right, and you guys still have to throw it at me. So that's all right. How did everybody else do on this pay-per-view?
I mean, Emily kicked your ass. So let's be real.
She's not on the show. She doesn't count.
That's
Sorry,
true.
she's not one of the big three here on my screen.
Let's just say, yeah, you did good.
A couple more matches to discuss here. We have the street fight between Darby Allin and Sting against Team Taz. This was a cinemagic style match, kind of like the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match from WWE. It was weird in spots, especially in the beginning. It was kind of a little hokey, but I actually thought it picked up towards the end. You had Powerhouse Hobbs and Hook involved in it. There was a crazy bump by Darby Allin jumping off the warehouse window. Sting did a sunset flip in the match, which I thought was really cool. Sting won with the Scorpion Death Drop. So I enjoyed it, although it was kind of hokey in some spots.
Yeah, at the very beginning, it was almost like the production at the beginning was overproduced. Like a lot of when Sting's jacket flew open, it was like Batman's cape, like it held there. It looked kind of weird. And I was saying that to Tim, it was cool, but it was kind of weird cool. Like I just couldn't figure out what it was. But as they got actually into more fighting, it definitely leveled out, so it wasn't as noticeable. I think the only thing they should have done differently was not have a ring there. Like you don't need a ring there. This should have been a street fight with no ring. Just go in this place, beat the shit out of each other, and then someone picks up a win. For some reason, Starks crawls back into the ring and Sting pins him. Like the ring doesn't need to be there, but that's nitpicking because it really was a pretty cool spectacle to see.
It was, and I absolutely loved that they had each other's faces on. That was such a cool touch with half Darby, half Sting. And then, it was a little overproduced, but, Darby's got his art degree, so, he was going to have some sort of input in it with his filmmaking background. But like Roland said, once it got going, it was great. They could have done without the ring. That was a little weird, but those bumps they took in the match, that they killed each other. When that window fell down, hit him on the head because it wasn't supposed to, but oof, and he kept going. So that tells you. So, but it was a good way to protect Sting and feature Sting, and I thought they did a good job. And hey, Vince, you let him get away. You could have still worked with him.
Well, and he wanted one with the Undertaker too. So and then Tim pointed that out when that window fell on Darby. We both kind of looked at each other and went, "Oh shit!" Like, "Oh, that had to hurt," because you can't fake that.
Next up is the main event. It is the exploding barbed wire death match for the world title. Kenny Omega is going to retain against Jon Moxley in about 25 minutes. I thought the match was solid. I kind of expected it to be a little bit more gory than it was. And then everybody's talking about the big explosion or lack thereof explosion at the end. I think my first thought was Gilbert was coming out.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. You're like, I thought Gilbert was coming out with the sparklers. Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was a solid match. I just wish there was maybe a little bit more color in it. I mean, but that might be asking a lot of these guys.
Yeah, to quote Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley can't make an exploding ring worth of shit. So the match itself was good, and the ending was just a little bit of a letdown, but they've played that off well.
No, I agree. Could have had a little bit of a better ending, because they teased it, but I think that's what we're all guilty. We overhyped it in our own minds. They kind of overhyped it. So it was going to be a letdown. The wrestling itself, the actual spots, like when he went outside the ring onto the barbed wire, Moxley took the brunt of that, and Kenny Omega kind of rolls out like, ouch. Definitely a good match. Could have been a little bit more color, like Tim said, but overall it was good. I don't think it was as much of a letdown. People need to stop remembering one spot and remember the rest of the card, because I'd give this a solid 7.
Yeah, I think this match helped save the show too, like the last two with Darby and Sting, and then this match. So I would say pay-per-view wise, probably in the 7s if I had to guess. If I had to bet.
I would agree. So that's a rundown of AEW Revolution. Real quickly, we're running out of time. Next week is ECW Living Dangerously from 1999. Looking forward to covering ECW. Everybody have a great week. We'll be back next Saturday at 5. Until then, I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling Past and Present.
I hope you're all having a nice day.